welcome to the Tristar Gym channel. All right, we're getting started right away. I gotta mute this. Okay, perfect. Hopefully everybody hears me well. Please give me a thumbs up if you guys hear me well. That was the Tristar Dorms, okay? Tristar Dorms, little promo there. So for those of you who want to come to the Tristar Gym and you want to train at Tristar with me and George, please check out the tsdorms at gmail.com. I just punched it in now, the chat. Okay, you can look at it in the description if you guys are interested in training at Tristar Gym and living in the dorms, coming in for a week, coming in for a year. Some people live there all year round. Some people come in for just a weekend, and they get some good training in, and it's a good, easy place to, cheap place to stay while you guys are training. All right, guys, for those of you also who don't know, we are now using Slido for these AMAs. Okay, so Slido is a really great website. It's sli.do, sly.do. And our code for this, our code is 5419, 5419. So I'm going to put that up here on screen real quick. Text. So you got to go to www.slido.do. Let me get this right. Slide.do. Event number 5419. Boom. And there you guys can upvote all your questions. You guys can upvote all your questions. It's going to pop up real soon on screen here. There it is. It should be working right now. Okay, there we go. I forgot to put it up, but I got it up now. Slido, www.sly.do. Our event number is 5419. You guys can upvote your questions. You don't have to ask a question. All you have to do is go on the site and see which question you want most answered and upvote it. I'm going to go on Slido right now and check out the answers, the questions you guys have for me. You guys can always go and check the event live. You can see which is the top question of the day. Once I answer those questions, I'm going to archive them, and they'll be put to bed, hopefully. And you guys will have a nice archive of questions and answers. Now, so today's first question, the most popular question. If you guys go on Slido right now, you'll see it, okay? The 86 upvotes. Best style to train if you already have bad knees. If you already got bad knees. Judo, BJJ, kickboxing, some other alternative. Exercises to strengthen knees and elbows for MMA. You guys have bad knees out there. I'm assuming this is the most upvoted question there was. I am assuming you guys really, really have bad knees. All right, so let's talk about bad knees. Bad knees is the big topic, the hot topic everybody wants to know about. Okay, the good news about bad knees, okay, is bad knees can be fixed if you know how to fix them. Bad knees can be fixed. Okay, what is your favorite resource? Tell me out there, what is the best resource for fixing your knees? Anybody out there? Let's talk about knees, guys. Don't change topic here. We're talking about knees. You guys out there have bad knees. So many people are upvoting and asking me about bad knees. We're going to deal with your bad knees. And the knee is one of the scariest injuries you can get. One reason why is because it's so common in MMA. All the MMA guys, it's usually a knee. They pop a knee. It's such a scary thing. Now, please tell me, guys, what is the best resource for fixing your knees? Swimming is the best for bad knees. Swimming is very good for knees, yes, but it won't fix the problem. You can exercise every day. You know, you could swim every day. You'll never hurt your knees. But if you want to do MMA, I think the pool is a great resource to help to keep the body healthy. Absolutely. But I need to have good knees so I can do MMA. This guy, the question here is asked, what's the best MMA art I can do? You know, from all the MMA arts that are used in modern day MMA, what's the art that's the best for my knees? First thing of all, if Muay Thai is hurting your knees, or boxing is hurting your knees, or Jiu-Jitsu is hurting your knees, or wrestling is hurting your knees, something is wrong with your system, your body. Okay, we gotta fix the root of the problem, not avoid the sport we want to participate in. Okay, balancing exercise, Mustafa, is a great answer, but it's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is, according to Kelly Starrett, he's a PhD in physiotherapy. I highly recommend his book, Becoming a Supple Leopard. Okay, Kelly Starrett. Let me punch that in there so you guys have the resource. Kelly Starrett. His book is called Becoming a Supple Leopard. Okay. Now, I know I've talked about this book before, but we're going to go deeper in this book right now. We're going to go layers deeper. Okay. There are numerous false movements a human being can do that taxes the knees. Okay. So a lot of people, when I see them squatting, I see that they bend their knee above their toe. So their knee goes in front of their toe. So instead of sitting back, they're sitting forward. And this bending forward with your knees just crushes your patella. It just inflames the patella. Okay, it just stresses the patella. Whether you're doing it with weights or if you're doing it just body weight squats, whatever motion you're doing that has to do with squatting, whether it's a lunge or a sprint, if your knee tracks over your toe, you're stressing the patella. Now, if your knee bows in, okay, you're hurting the ACL. You're injuring the ACL. Now, this book it's a big book, but it's really illustrations of the false movements. Okay, so he basically boils it down to two things. One, you need to have alignment. Okay, so when you're doing squats, you're running, you're lunging, you always must be in alignment. Okay. Second of all, you cannot have a tight system. You cannot have a tight muscle that's pulling you out of alignment. Okay, and then he talks about more sophisticated ideas like creating torque, etc. when you're under stress. And these are super important concepts. But the reason why your knees hurt is because you're using your body wrong. Gluteus medius not firing. That is also a problem. That also can be a very important problem. But why is the gluteus medius not firing? Because of your body mechanics. Your body mechanics are out of whack. Now, why are your body mechanics out of whack? A lot of people will trace it back to shoes and sitting in chairs and all these other things. Okay, we're not really doing natural movements all day long. So what happens is your body has these side effects that come from sitting in chairs and walking in shoes, especially those those sneakers people wear today with the heel is so thick. What that does is it tilts you forward. Then you have to kind of lean back, etc. And then you're sitting in a chair all day. You ever see people in the third? Like when I was in Thailand, what I loved about Thailand is they don't have any toilets. It's just a hole in the ground. And when you want to go to the bathroom, you have to squat. And they're great squatters. They squat beautifully. They squat like a newborn child. Have you ever seen a newborn child pick something up off the floor? They don't bend over like we do here in the West. They squat down like butt cheeks to the floor. And then they grab whatever item they want. That's what keeps your spine healthy, right? But we lose that range of motion because we're always sitting in chairs. Stretching, Andy, is very good. Stretching is very good. But Kelly goes farther than that. He calls it mobility work. Okay, and he goes into reasons why. I don't want to go into that tangent right now, but stretching is definitely good. It's just not the end all be all. We need alignment. Okay, we need alignment when we're moving, when we're lifting weights, when we're wrestling. We need to keep our body aligned. And second of all, second thing we need to keep our muscles loose. We don't want a tight muscle that's pulling us out of alignment. Okay, so you can see me. I'm slouching in my chair. Why? Because I want to get close to the mic. I have to get close to the mic or else you guys won't be able to hear me. But I do have my spine right now. My spine is in a neutral position. And he explains in the book how to keep your spine in a neutral position. Or else you can have pain in your back. Okay, so guys, check out that book. It's going to be very hard for me to do it justice just verbally. You got to see the illustrations. You got to understand it. You got to create torque. You got to create proper alignment. So I'll give you a quick little, for instance, when I started researching, a knee pain, I had credible knee pain just walking up the stairs. Now you have to understand, I was wrestling, almost every single day, doing kickboxing every day, and I was walking up the stairs and I was in pain. So when I would go to the gym, I have to walk 3 flights of stairs to go to the gym. I was starting my workout in pain, and this was really taxing mentally. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the feel. I wasn't excited to train. Why? Because I was in so much pain. My body was aching. And Kelly Starrett had an incredible solution in his book that immediately alleviated my knee pain. I would say 20-30%. He was saying, look, when you walk up on a step, your knee cannot track over your toes and your knee has to point to the outside. Just this correction when I was going up the steps every day. Every time I would go up and down steps, I would turn my knee to the outside and I wouldn't let it track over my toe. My knee pain started dropping immediately. And 3-4 weeks later, I had no knee pain at all, and I was amazed. And he also goes around talking about how important it is to strengthen your hamstrings, because he says your hamstring is a second ACL. Now, don't forget, imagine somebody think about this, okay? Imagine somebody doing a clean and jerk, or let's talk about a snatch, okay? And that weight is on top of your head, okay? So you're holding a bar over your head. Just picture holding a bar over your head. What's holding the bar over your head? Well, there's your muscles, there's your bone structure, and there's your tendons, okay? Let's keep it really simple and mark it down to those three things. Now, if it's very light and your muscles can hold it, your muscles carrying the majority of the stress, right? And if you're well aligned, then your bones are carrying the stress. Your bones are carrying the stress. If you're unaligned or the weight is too heavy, some of that weight is going to end up on your tendons. And you don't want that, okay? That's a really bad, that's a faux pas. You don't want to stress. You don't want to put miles on the tendons, okay? So alignment, good, strong, healthy muscles, okay? Or, of course, you don't want to lift heavier than what your musculature can carry, because then you're going to be carrying it on your joints, okay? My other recommendation for you guys is to check out Sports Science Lab. Sports Science Lab. I just typed it in. They have a great water program. They have a DVD that they put out there, Sports Science Lab. It's how to train in the pool. When George had ACL injuries, we put him in SSL. Okay, he lived in Orange County, California, and he did the program. His knees, Dominic Cruz did it. Lots of UFC fighters go to SSL. Lots of NFLers, lots of big-name athletes, they go there. There's other great areas to go to, but they have a very nice DVD where they teach you how to train your body in the pool. Now, when you train your body in the pool, there's so many benefits. And one of them is that it loosens up the body. There's no eccentric load, so you will not have soreness or tightness, and you run very little risk of injuring your joints when you're in the pool, okay? Without the muscle, your skeletal system folds. Yes, absolutely. No, I understand that you can't just hold your body up with just skeletons. No, I understand that. I'm perfectly aware of that. But then again, look at my chair that I'm sitting on right now. It has no muscles. What's it using to hold me up? It's the structure of the chair that's holding me up. So the point is that what is carrying the stress? Our muscles, that's okay. Our bones, that's okay. Our tendons, no, that's not okay. We don't want our tendons carrying any stress. Why? They don't rejuvenate. Right? They don't rebuild. The bones rebuild. The bones get stronger when you put stress on them. You know, they say, I've read once that a racket player, the racket hand, the bone density in his racket hand is 300% more stronger. Why? Because he's constantly getting that shock of hitting the racquetball. So your bones get stronger under stress. People who lift weights will have stronger bones. People who stress their bone system, the bones rejuvenate themselves. The muscles rejuvenate themselves. Tendons, far less. So we want to, save the wear and tear on the tendons. Okay, maximum. As nice as you can be on your tendons, that's what you want to do. You want to avoid wear and tear on your tendons. That's just it's a given. How about gymnastics? Gymnastics is great. Okay, if you follow the rule, I've worked firsthand with gymnasts. I've seen gymnasts also with bad form. Okay, I have. They're generally speaking, a good gymnast trainer will he'll keep form paramount. Why? Because form is power. Form is power. Without good form, not only do you injure the body, but your power bleeds. Okay, you bleed power. So we don't want to bleed power, right? We want to make sure that power is paramount, and I want to make sure that I'm always super well aligned. I'm going to remove the text here just so it doesn't get annoying. Don't force movements in pain. Pain is a signal for incorrect. I agree with you. However, let's say you hurt your shoulder. Okay, let's say, I don't know, you were wrestling, you did a double leg, and as you landed, you posted on the mat and you hurt your shoulder. And you're out. You're not wrestling anymore. You're not going to wrestle for 2-3 weeks. I would go into the gym and I would do like movement drills. I would do the supple leopard workout. I would do some of the, of course, not during the acute phase. Okay, not during the phase where it's super painful. I didn't do. Okay, I would do it later after a few days when the swelling goes down, depending how bad the injury is. Okay, you don't want to do it when there's acute pain. But discomfort during an exercise is very different than if I stop doing the exercise and I'm still in pain. So this is some advice that I've heard physiotherapists give, throughout the years of working with so many physiotherapists. It's a rule of thumb that I learned to live by, and I think it really worked. It served me well. So if, let's say, that shoulder is bothering me and I don't feel comfortable wrestling, I think I'll injure myself. Okay, I'm maybe going to work with a band, or I'm going to work just some mobility exercises, and I'm going to do some work loosening my shoulder up. If I feel pain during the exercise, not too much pain, okay? If I'm feeling discomfort, let's call it discomfort. And when I stop the exercise, the discomfort disappears. I will continue doing that exercise. I think I'm creating blood flow. I think I'm creating, I'm allowing my lymph nodes to flush out inflammation, etc. Because lymph nodes need to be pumped. Okay, they need motion to remove inflammation, etc. But if I stop the exercise and the pain is still there and it's worse, and the inflammation seems to be increasing, I won't exercise it anymore. Okay, that's an acute signal. You don't want to touch that. So basically, keep this in mind. Okay, if during the exercise you're in a little bit of discomfort, keep doing it. If you stop the exercise and the discomfort is still there or getting worse, stop. It's too early. It's just too early for the joint to be worked. Can you create other events for just philosophy, please? If not, fighting once a week. Listen, I don't know if I have time for Philosophy Channel, but the second question is on the meaning of life, which was extremely peculiar. Guys want to know about knee pain, and then the second most popular question is, what is the meaning of life? What is a well-lived life? Now, I didn't pick that topic. You guys picked that topic, so I will talk about this in a little bit, but I want to devote more time to knee pain before we start talking about the meaning of life, and I really want to hear what you guys have to say about the meaning of life. Now, neck exercises. Yes, there's a lot of good neck exercises, but look, I've seen some people use heavy weights on their neck. Guys, that's crazy. You have one neck, okay? Don't experiment with your neck. Don't experiment with your neck. Follow what it says in Supple Leopard. There are different ways to train your neck. Train your neck in a smart way. Don't overbear your neck with heavy weight. Okay, now the best necks I've ever seen personally, and I'm not giving you guys any medical advice or training advice on the neck. This is my own personal experience. Are wrestlers. Okay, now wrestlers, they do a lot of neck bridging, which a lot of people would think that's extreme. I don't know if it creates shearing in the neck. I don't know, but their necks seem strong and they seem to not have any neck pain. So I do also practice the art of neck bridging. I do some of it. I don't do a lot of it, but I do some of it. However, putting a harness around your neck and putting a lot of weight on the harness and doing reps, that for me, I don't know if that's healthy. I just have a funny feeling that you're shearing your vertebrae in your neck. Something's not right. Just, again, I don't have any evidence of this. I've never done a study on this. I've never read a study on this. I've seen a lot of Thai fighters do this, but not I wouldn't say it's a staple exercise. However, I personally find that the wrestlers have better necks, harder to bend, much harder to bend, and they seem to be neck pain-free. Okay, so that's just my opinion, my experience. Don't take that as medical advice because I have no idea about what actually is going on in their neck. I just do it myself and I feel good. I feel good doing it. Do you still train in the gi? That's off topic, but I'll give you a quick answer. Then we'll go back to the Slido. Guys, I do a lot less gi these days, okay? I just do a little bit. Very little. I don't know you, but you're my best friend. Guys, we're talking about knees here. The number one most upvoted question was knees. What do you guys have to say? Cartilage injuries are terrible, painful, and hard to rehabilitate. I agree with you. Here's the problem with that. Yes, you're right. They're horrible. You shouldn't get to that point, okay? Try not to get to that point. Kelly Starr talks about how to run. He doesn't discuss the topic of how pose running, the technique of pose running. I suggest if you're going to run, listen. All your exercises, including running, should be low impact exercises. As low impact as possible. If you're planning on training for life, minimize the impact. Impact is death to the joints. Okay, so that's why you're maybe having you're having cartilage issues, but it could also be genetic. Okay, now I train an orthopedic surgeon, and he tells me, look, some people it's just genetic. They're going to have bad knees whether they train or not. Some people, it's genetic. But this is a small amount of people. Most people have an average set of knees, and you can take care of these knees and use them for life. According to Kelly Starr, he says your knees should last you 120 years if you use them correctly. I get back of the knee pain since doing BJJ. Okay, listen, you got knee pain in the back of your knee. That's not good. Okay, that's not good. That is probably a tight hamstring. Okay, now Kelly Starr says, look, it's probably a tight hamstring. We don't know for sure if it's a tight hamstring. So he says, look, if you have pain in your knee, you got to treat the upstream and downstream. So you got to treat the muscles below the knee and above the knee. So he talks to you about all the muscles that are around your knee above and all the muscles that are below your knee and how to treat them all. Hit all the spots. Okay, so that's why he calls upstream and downstream. That's why I love the Tim Tam. So this channel, by the way, is sponsored by timtam.tech. Timtam.tech is the world's most powerful handheld massager. Okay, now it's not a vibrating massage, it's a percussion massage. Some massagers just vibrate. They don't go deep into the muscle. They don't have a travel. Okay, it's called a travel. Tim Tam is the #1 for travel. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do with the Tim Tam? Instead of rolling up and down on a lacrosse ball, which is good, it's not wrong, it's not bad, it's very good. Instead of going up and down on a foam roller, I got sick of rolling up and down on a foam roller. Why? Because I would have to exercise for 30, 40 minutes after I finished exercising. So I had to do my martial arts, my conditioning, and then I had to foam roll. It was just too long. Okay, so the foam roller to unlock a hamstring could take half an hour. With a Tim Tam, I can unlock it in 2 to 3 minutes. With a Tim Tam, I can unlock it to 2 to 3 minutes. So if you're a serious trainer, if you're training all the time and you want to keep your body healthy, you don't have the time to go to a physiotherapist. You don't have the time. I go to a physio. I actually never use physio. Rarely. I've used physios in the past, and I use it with my athletes who have a chronic problem. But if I don't have a chronic problem, why would I need a physio? I just constantly maintain my body 2 to 15 minutes a day. I work on maintenance. And sometimes it's just 2 minutes. I just do 2 minutes. Keep my body healthy. I don't let the system get tight. I don't let the body get out of whack. I treat the problem immediately. Keeping the body aligned when it's under stress, when you're lifting weights, when you're wrestling, you got to keep the spine neutral. You got to keep the neck neutral. You got to create torque in your joints to protect your joints. And then you got to keep the musculature system loose. This is very, very important. So if you have pain in the back of your knee, don't wait till your knee pops or you tear something. Loosen it up. Okay, really important. I'm never going inside trip again. Guys, I used to be scared of inside trip. I used to not do inside trip because I was scared of my knee. I used to have knee pain. Now I do inside trip all the time. Okay, it's one of my favorite maneuvers. I want to buy a Tim Tam to fix my hams. Yes, if you have tight hamstrings, guys, according to Michael Kogan, most of the tight muscles in athletes is the legs. Most of your tight muscles in your body is the legs. Now what happens is they say because if you have a tight joint or a misaligned joint, the upper joint cannot be aligned because the lower joint is putting the whole system out of whack. So your neck could be aligned, okay? Your hips can be aligned. And then one day you have an injury or whatnot, your hips are out of line. Well, guess what? The joint on top of it, your neck, is also out of line because it has to counterbalance. So if your neck is out of whack, your neck is out of line, it doesn't mean your hips, it doesn't affect the joint below. But the joints below always affect the joints above. Okay, so then you have a compensation of some sort, and that creates to a chain of problems. Okay, now again, I'm not an expert in this. This is stuff I've been told. I've worked with so many physios. Every fighter, pro I train, usually comes with a physio guy. And it's a wise thing. And I've worked with a lot of world-class physio guys. Now, this is the stuff that they've taught me over the years. Again, I'm not an expert, so if you have pain, chronic pain, go see an expert. But I have been my personal experience, I have been very successful keeping my body healthy by following the basic guidelines. And that's what Kelly Starrett says. He says, look, my book is the basic guideline to keeping your body healthy. It's the basics of physio. And I've gotten really good at the basics of physio. Now, if tomorrow I have a chronic problem, I'm going to go see a specialist. Hello, Coach. Salam, Coach. My knees make a cracking sound when I squat. It doesn't hurt. Is this a bad thing? Personally, I think so. I think it's going to be a tight muscle or you're just squatting wrong. You're squatting wrong. It shouldn't be. I don't think there should be a cracking sound. Like if it's always cracking, listen, I'm not an expert in that, so I would stop. I would do something else. I would do a variation of the squat. I would check out Kelly Starrett's book and watch exactly how to squat. Now, I'll tell you guys a quick story. You guys ever see George do a backflip? When George St. Pierre does a backflip, he does the valgus fault. Okay, you guys ever seen the valgus fault? Now, when I read the book Supple Leopard, I saw in his book he talks about the valgus fault, and when I saw that, I saw George. That's how George lands. It's when your knees bow in. Okay, so your knees kind of like bend in towards another. When you squat, your knees bend in, and George always has that, always. And he said in the book, look, if you do this all the time, you tear your ACL. Okay, I'm paraphrasing here. So I'm like, man, it's been 2 ACL tears George has. So I phoned up Kelly Starrett. I got in touch with him. I said, look, I'm going to send you to George St. Pierre. Please fix this valgus fault. And till this day, we're still working on the valgus fault, but it's gotten so much better. I mean, we make George do an exercise, we film him, and we see the correction over the years. So he does a clean and jerk, or he does a hurdle jump, and we put it in slow motion, and we see, you know, did he bow his knees in, etc. What happened with the alignment of the knees? Now, I wish if we knew this years ago, he may have never torn his ACL in the first place. You know, he may not have. And because now he knows not to do valgus fault again, you know, he's been working on it. It's less likely that he'll hurt his knees again. Now his knees are in great shape. You know, he's in his late 30s now, and his knees are in great shape, better than when he was training for the first Condit fight. You know, he had knee pain back then. So knee pain has a lot to do with alignment and loose muscles, guys. Alignment and loose muscles. That's why I love TimTam.tech. That's why I want to work with them. That's why I'm so all over their product. I think their product is amazing. I use it on my legs whenever I have a tight muscle. Sometimes I use it once, twice a week. Sometimes I use it 3-4 days in a row. Why? Because I have a tight muscle. And if I have a tight muscle, I'm not going to roll hard till that muscle is loose and I have no knee pain. So sometimes I train really hard and I feel like my IT band is tight, or I feel like my groin is tight, my groin muscle is tight, or my calves or my Achilles is tight. Dude, I got to erase that off the map. I got to get that off the map, because that's going to tug on something that is going to eventually pop. Now, if you've never popped a joint, you've never tore a ligament or something, it's not fun. Okay, you're benched for a long time. It's just not fun. So I try to avoid it at all costs. All right, guys, anything else on joint pain before we go on to these other Slido questions? Please don't let George put a beating on Nate. Brain damage from judo. Well, listen, if you get slammed on your head, you might get brain damage. But generally speaking, it's a safe sport. Thoughts on Kani Basami, the scissor takedown? Listen, that's a dangerous takedown. I admit it is a dangerous takedown. Now, if you guys remember, I used to do the web guard takedown. And a lot of people were like, hey, that's kind of dangerous, kind of like the scissor. I'm like, no, because I'm jumping on the hip. And I kept doing the takedown. Then one day I saw a video of me doing it, and I noticed that the guy's knee bent in. Even though I hit him in the hip, his knee still bent in. So I stopped doing this move. I think it's a great move. I think it works really well if you know what you're doing. But it's too dangerous. Okay, so here's my thoughts on these maneuvers. These maneuvers should only be done on with black belts, between black belts, who agree to do it and are going to do it in type of flow roll, not real rolling, because you'll break your opponent's knee. Okay, but we have to learn them. Why? Because if we don't learn them, you know, people we're competing with are going to learn them. And in MMA, it's legal. So for jiu-jitsu, you don't need it. In MMA, it's legal. So for you guys doing MMA, you got to do it, but you got to do it in a controlled way. If you jump a scissor and you pop your partner's knee, man, you're just like a guy nobody's going to want to train with. Okay, so how do we find the happy middle? We don't want to hurt our partner's knee. No way, because one day you'll be the victim of a scissor, right? So you got to keep a good rapport with your training partners. You got to tell them, hey, I'm gonna jump a scissor, but I'm gonna do it flow, and he's expecting it, and you guys are kind of flow. I think that makes sense. I think that's okay. All right, guys. Anything else? Glucosamine for joint pain. I think it's okay. You know, I haven't read a bunch of studies on that at all, but I know people who swear by glucosamine. So I personally, I don't take any glucosamine. I'm willing to try it. I've never tried it, to be honest with you. I've never tried it, but I know people who swear by it, who take it religiously. Okay, guys, I think my feed just skipped, but I believe we're back on, so I'm going to continue. How do you know if you're out of alignment? How can you check? You got to read the book, because why? He has illustrations, okay? And he shows you, this is a person out of alignment, this is a person in alignment. That's why the book is big. Be sure to get the second edition. The second edition's illustrations are way better. It's far more easy to understand. But basically, he shows you what's out of alignment, what's in alignment, what's out of alignment. It's a lot of pictures, okay? It's really good, easy read, easy concepts to understand. And at the end of the day, you'll know. After reading the book, you'll understand. It's just a little bit hard for me to explain it just verbally. Can you treat knee pain with natural stuff? Yeah, there are natural anti-inflammatories, but at the end of the day, the root of the problem is what you want to get to. Because if you're always constantly creating inflammation, you're kind of chasing your tail, okay? How do we eliminate inflammation? Proper alignment, okay? And keep those muscles limber. That's why the book is called Becoming a Supple Leopard. When is the next Silver Fox video coming? I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sure, but check out my Patreon. I'm posting videos now on the regular, on the Patreon. And there's some silver fox like stuff on there. Okay, so you guys you're gonna like it. By the way, Silver Fox has got great pool workout material to keep the body loose and limber. So check his materials out. It's very good. It's very similar to the SSL program. Thoughts on intermittent fasting for inflammation? Yes, guys, fasting, no doubt about it. I know 2 people right now that are really into fasting. Actually, more than that, 3 people. And my wife is one of them. She has a disease that causes inflammation or whatnot, and fasting just crushes disease, inflammation. Okay, fasting has a lot of promise when it comes to inflammation. So fasting, if you have inflammation, fasting, from what I've read and what I've seen, what the people that I'm hanging out with are fasting. Like George did a bunch of fasts recently as well for inflammation, and he has the gut issue. It works. It definitely works. From what they tell me, they're swearing by it. They feel like their inflammations went down. I've seen my wife's inflammation also go down. So inflammation is dealt with in various ways. And one of the most powerful ways I've seen is from my experience with my wife is her, because she would like have inflammation. Her hand would kind of like swell. And fasting 2 days, boom, swelling went down like incredibly. Better than the pills that they were giving. They were giving her all these pills like anti-inflammatories, powerful anti-inflammatories. Fasting did better than the pills. So at least I know it's anecdotal, but that's the experience that I've come across. I've done fasting myself. And if you train and fast, I've made the error of training hard and fast. I didn't feel that my inflammation went down. If you fast and don't train, okay, you don't slam the body at the gym. Like I went a little bit crazy. Okay, I wasn't eating or drinking, and I was working hard, and that was just crazy. That wasn't a good idea. Inflammation skyrocketed. Okay, I wasn't feeling well the next day. I wasn't feeling like a happy camper the next day. However, just fasting alone and letting the body rest, that does, in my opinion, in my experience, my personal experience, it did help with inflammation. THC oil. Listen, I've never done THC oil. I know that's, from what I understand, it's the oil from cannabis. Of course, the psychedelics are removed, and it's just the oil itself. Supposedly, that lowers inflammation. If it has no side effects, I would definitely want to try it. So for those of you who've tried it, somebody just got booted off. I'm going to put you in timeout. Okay. If some of you have tried that oil, please let me know if it works, how it works. I'm very curious to try it, actually. Very, very curious. I live and train in Liverpool. How can I meet you? Well, that's going to be a tough one. I'm doing a seminar, I think an hour out from Liverpool. I'm going to post that up next week, okay? So, or this week. And you can come meet me there. Sometimes my knee gives out for a second. Very weak. It feels like it never pops. What's the problem? Yeah, your knee's giving out. So look, from what I have understood is that when you're training, okay, the stabilizers have less endurance than the prime movers. So the stabilizers are the muscles more responsible for aligning the joint, but the prime movers are bigger and stronger and have more endurance. So you want to focus on strengthening your stabilizers. Your stabilizers are just not able to keep up with your prime movers. Now, I don't know if you ever heard the maxim that you're only as strong as your weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link. What does that mean? You're only as strong as your weakest link. If your stabilizers give out, you're not able to lift anymore. Your prime movers are almost useless, okay? They're not useless if the situation you're in is a very stable one. However, in MMA and jiu-jitsu, things are very dynamic. So they'll be useless if your stabilizers are weak, okay? So the weakest chain in the link, that's how strong the whole of the chain, right? Because as soon as you pull on that chain, if one link breaks, the whole chain now has been disconnected from whatever it's tugging on. So focus, if your knees are giving out, like if you're moving around and your knees are giving out, it's probably because your stabilizers don't have enough strength and endurance. Focus more on the stabilizers and less on the prime movers. Deadlifts can be very safe if done correctly. Most people get knee pain, in my opinion, from deadlifts because they lift too heavy. If you have good form, but your knees are still hurting, you're lifting too heavy. Don't go anywhere near your max, guys. Keep it at 80 and 85%. Your body will get stronger. Okay? So if your body will get stronger at 80 and 85% of your max, why go to 99%? Why go to 95%. Why go to 100% of your max? You're just stressing the system too much. Plus, you're sending yourself into recovery, major recovery. You're flirting with pain, you're flirting with injury, and your recovery is going to be so much longer. Deadlift will blow out your back incorrectly. Absolutely. It will blow out your shoulder, your hip, your back, your knee, your hamstring. It'll blow out anything. It could blow out any part of your body, save your neck maybe. Okay? Are you talking about hypertrophy? No, I'm not talking about hypertrophy. I'm talking about flying too close to the sun. Okay, imagine you're driving your car and you're redlining it every day. You're driving to work every day and you're just revving that engine all day long. You're revving it. And then you go to your mechanic. Your mechanic's like, what did you do to this transmission? What did you do to these gears? What did you do to this car? Oh, I was redlining it. He's going to be like, dude, this car's smoked. This car's finished. And the same is with the body. Can I go pro? I'm 23 and not very experienced. Sure you can. Absolutely. But you got to dedicate your life. It's not going to be easy. I mean, it's a tough journey. How exactly do you do intermediate fasting? Well, that would be off topic, but basically you don't want to eat for 16 hours a day, 16 to 18 hours a day. And then you can have coffee and water. Generally, most intermittent fasters will allow coffee and water. And then after that, you can have a 4-hour eating window. What are John Jones' deadlifts? Well, I don't know. I wasn't there when he was doing them, but I know that his fight after that, he looked a little slower, a little flatter, and maybe that had to do with too much deadlifting. Do you recommend squats? I think squats are okay. I don't think they're the end-all be-all. Like some people make it like as the best exercise that ever was invented. I think it's okay. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think you can get away without doing squats. I don't think it's that important of a subject. How do you prevent burns during wrestling and jiu-jitsu? I think you mean knee burns. Well, it's probably you just have tender skin. You know, I don't get mat burns anymore because my skin is used to it. So if you're having burns, just put a knee pad on and once in a while take it off and just let your skin get a little tougher. Or maybe the mats you're rolling on are brutal. But if you have good mats, you shouldn't get knee burns after a while. What is the meaning of life? Yes, that was the second question. Guys, we went in 40 minutes on knees. And this is supposed to last 1 hour. Okay? And now we're going to talk about the meaning of life. Okay, guys, we're switching gears from knee pain to the meaning of life, which in my opinion is crazy. But listen, guys, those are the questions you guys picked. What is the meaning of life? Let me hear from you guys first. Meaning of life is to worship Allah or / God. Okay, Allah means God for those of you who don't know it. Arabic. Okay, so any religion that says the word God in Arabic, they're going to say Allah. To worship God, to worship God. I see a lot of theists out here. Worship God. What do you think of a superior psychological type in MMA? That's off topic. Stay on the topic. Colonize the universe. Oof. That's a tough one. Meaning of life, question, exam, everything. Especially when it comes to ethics. That's an interesting answer. Seeking truth, I assume. Live to the fullest. Know God. Sharing. Develop yourself. These are all really good answers. Kick ass and look good. To die. To die? Sensei, tell me more about that. That's an interesting one. The will to power. The will to power, actually, you know what? Some scholars say that Nietzsche didn't even write the will to power. Now they even question if he wrote the will to power. Interesting. I haven't really looked into it deeply enough, but I've heard that it's been questioned. Define yourself. What does that mean, define yourself? How does a person define themselves? To know thyself? I think you mean to know thyself. Seeking knowledge to benefit in this world and the hereafter. Well, that's a very interesting statement. There is no meaning, which means we get to make our own. Well, that's very nihilistic. Are you familiar with the history of nihilism? Okay, one of you keeps saying sex, okay? And now I'm going to have to put you on a timeout. You're not being serious. Put user in timeout. Okay, you get a timeout for that, okay? Because you might have been serious. To recognize we are all one. What do you mean by that, Ibrahim? How are we all one? That's also a very interesting concept. How are we all one? In what sense are we all one? Be useful. That's very Leonardo da Vinci. You know, Leonardo da Vinci said, "I never tire of being useful." You know, near the end of his life. That's one of his famous quotes. What do you think of nihilism? I think that's a very important place to start. Okay, let's talk about nihilism. So nihilism is the position that, and again, there are versions of nihilism. Okay, I'm going to give you my understanding of nihilism. Nihilism is to basically tell yourself, look, if you become really intelligent, if you're an intelligent person, okay, and you start reaching higher levels of consciousness, you might come to the conclusion that there is no point if death is truly the end. Okay, if death is the end, then who cares if you get your job promotion? Who cares if some girl you ask to marry you marries you? Who cares if your children survive or die? Who cares if the world is going to end tomorrow? Who cares? If you look at the timeline of the universe, you're just a blink of an eye. You're a speck of dust. You're a blink of an eye. When you step on an ant, do you worry about it? Do you think that, this is a major problem and we should all get together and talk about this? Or do you say, look, it's insignificant. It's just an ant. Nihilism is to see your own life as just simply the insignificance of a microbe. Your life is just as insignificant as that of a microbe. Why? Because no matter what enjoyment you have in this life, death is raining on your parade. You have this nice parade. I'll give you guys a little metaphor. You have this nice parade, and now you have this thunderstorm. So you're rolling out this parade. You're trying to enjoy this parade, but death, the thunderstorm of death, is just raining down on you. You can't enjoy the parade. You just can't. It just ruined everything. That, if I can give you a metaphor for nihilism, I would say that's one that my philosophy professor gave me, and it made me laugh. It made me chuckle. It's a great picture to explain the depths of nihilism in a very easy way. Yes, Nietzsche is very famous for his discussion on nihilism. Does anybody know what Nietzsche's solution to nihilism was? Why did Nietzsche talk about nihilism? Yes, Imam Ghazali talks about the meaning of life, and hopefully we'll get to Imam Ghazali, a great Arabic philosopher that I'm doing a lot of reading on. And guys, I will have to do multiple. We're gonna have to probably do multiple episodes on this. Okay, I know we don't have a lot of time, so we're probably not gonna get to the meaning of life. Maybe we'll scratch the surface and make for a fun sequel to this question. If you guys keep upvoting this question, I will keep answering it for you guys. We'll keep working on it. So, why did Nietzsche say that life is so nihilistic, and why did he say, why was his solution to nihilism? What was his solution? He said, look, people are working now he saw the industrial age coming about. People are no longer working in nature, okay? When you work in nature, you have a certain psyche that develops, right? You're planting a seed, and that seed grows, and it makes you think about God and nature, and it makes you think about the forces of life. But now people are moving into the industrial age. They're just working mechanically now. They're going to have no rapport with the end product. So a farmer, he would take great joy in having his crop shared by the town or whatnot. Those are Jim's apples. Those are Mike's corn. Like everything would be we know who we're getting our produce from. We know who's the shoemaker. We know them. We'd have a rapport, and they would take great respect. They would get respect for being known as being skilled. However, now we're moving in the industrial age. Now you're just a dude screwing a bolt on a screw over and over again, and the end product, you have nothing to do with it. You were just the guy who screws in the bolts. He just tightens the bolts. And another guy is the guy who cuts the sheet metal. And another guy is the guy who assembles the two. And another guy is the guy who welds them together. And the industrial age is going to rob us of this experience. Now, this was just a small problem. He said, look, eventually people are going to become more and more atheists. And what's going to happen when they become more and more atheists? It's funny because Jordan Peterson talks about this. He talks about this quite a bit. He says, look, Nietzsche was saying, look, you have theism, you have this belief in God, and then you're going to take it from these people, or they're going to lose it. What's going to happen is you're going to have this vacuum, and this vacuum is going to be filled with nihilism. Keep a long story short, fast forward to today, Jordan Peterson is saying, look, ethics comes from religion. There's no civilization that didn't start with a religion or have a religion. There's no civilization. Anthropologists will tell you, we cannot find any civilization that didn't have some religion, and their ethics comes from religion. So he says, look at today, a lot of people are preaching atheism, and he's saying, look what's happening to the West. We took out religion, and we think that with our own reason, we're going to figure out what's right and wrong. Do you guys think that just by reflection, just by using your reason, you could have come up with the 10 Commandments. Do you think that the reason is self-evident? Do you think that by reason you could have convinced your society that you're living in? Let's not murder. Let's not steal from one another. Let's not cover each other's neighbors' wives. Let's not commit these vices. They're bad for our community. Do you think that you could reason your way to this? It's not that easy. People think, oh no, it's the Enlightenment. Yeah, the Enlightenment. We can reason for ourselves what's right and wrong. Actually, Nietzsche was very opposed to this. Nietzsche said, look, there is no right and wrong. If you take away God, if you're an atheistic culture, and I'm not saying the atheists don't know right and wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like Jordan Peterson says, the root comes from religious traditions. We got our sense of right and wrong. What you take for granted today, what you think is so self-evident, actually was not a product of reason. Now, if you're going to call religion reason, that's another topic. But it came from religion. If we're talking about reason as in pure logic, the rationalist did not create the standard right and wrong we have today. The majority of what we would agree on. I know we don't agree on exactly what's right and wrong. I'm not talking about the trivial matters. I'm talking about the key points that we all agree is right and wrong. Okay? Like murder. We all agree murder is wrong. We all agree stealing is wrong. Okay? The vast majority of us. If you've read Euthyphro, now a lot of you guys are always asking me for book recommendations. I'm going to recommend a book for you right now, the Euthyphro. The Euthyphro book from Plato is a very fun and easy read. It's not complicated like the other texts, okay? Like the Parmenides is super complicated. The Gorgias is super complicated. The Euthyphro is a fun, easy, soft landing for somebody who's just starting off in reading. Is anybody out there familiar with the Euthyphro? The book of Euthyphro. I'm not saying reason didn't exist before religion. I'm saying our standard view of ethics today comes from religion. That's what I'm saying. Not the same thing. Okay, so really, really different. I know it's a bit confusing. I know it's not. These are not simple topics, guys, and I mean that with the utmost respect. These are very confusing topics for me too. When I started learning these topics, I was always trying to define what do they mean by what they're saying. Most anthropologists agree that civilizations all had a religion. All ancient civilizations had a religion, and they derived their ethics from these religions. Okay, we all know the Abrahamic faiths. Okay, what we standardize as right and wrong today comes from the Abrahamic faiths. Okay, now most people think no, it comes from our reason. Actually, it doesn't. Okay, a great book to point that out, a great book that points that out is the Euthyphro. Now, the Euthyphro is before Western civilization converted to Christianity and the Abrahamic faiths. In the Euthyphro, they're discussing what is right and what is wrong. How do we define what is right, morally right, and what is morally wrong? Yes, Greek philosophy has a lot to do with our concepts of right and wrong, but that book, Euthyphro, has a central theme. It has a central question. What is the central theme and central question of the Euthyphro? Does anybody out there know? In the book of Euthyphro, the central question is something right? And this is irrelevant if you believe in God or not, okay? And Socrates understood that his audience may or may not believe in God. The Greeks did believe in God. They believed in many gods, etc. But this question is not asked solely to a theistic person. You could ask this question to an atheist. Absolutely, this is not a problem. Okay, so don't take this as where Socrates was presupposing the existence of God. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to that question. Yes, Jay, that's correct. That's the correct spelling of Euthyphro. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Socrates asked the question. He says, look, is right and wrong. Does God say something is right or wrong because its nature is good or bad? So is killing wrong? Does God say killing is wrong because killing has the germ of evil in it? Or is it wrong just because God said so. It doesn't have a germ of evil or good. It's God who's the measuring stick. God tells us what's right and wrong, and we go by his definition. Or does killing have a germ of evil? Gred Adam, that is completely wrong. You're saying that Imam Ghazali later repented and said that philosophy is haram. No, it's not. Philosophy is not haram. Please check the work of Frank Griffel. Okay, he wrote a book on Imam Ghazali. When Imam Ghazali was talking about the philosophers, this is a little tangent here, okay? This is a very popular misconception. Very popular misconception. A famous philosopher in the Arab world, he wrote a book called the Tahaffut, the slip up of the philosophers. When he was talking about the philosophers, he was talking about a particular group, the Mu'tazila. He's talking about a particular group of philosophers, not philosophy as a whole. Philosophy translates to lover of wisdom, okay? Don't forget that. And Imam Ghazali is exhaustive in explaining that any truth we shouldn't say something is true or false from who said it. It doesn't matter if a pagan says it, or a Greek says it, or an Italian says it, or a tall person says it, or a short person says it. If what they say is true, we have to accept it. If what they say is false, we have to reject it, regardless of who the person is. We don't know the truth by who says it. We know the truth by its evaluation. Okay, this is a very important distinction that he makes. So he is in no way, this is such a misconception. Some people say, Ghazali was against mathematics, or he was against reason. Far from it, absolutely far from it. Somebody who says that has never read the Confessions. Somebody who says that has never read the Deliverance from Error. It's the total opposite of that. Imam Ghazali believed in mathematics so much that he gives an example in his Confessions. He says, look, if somebody tried to tell me that 7 is less than 3, and to bring me his proof, he turned the staff into a snake. Now, he doesn't believe in magic. Now, Imam Ghazali does not believe in magic. But he's saying if somebody came and did something, produced an incredible miracle, he says, I would still believe that 7 is more than 3. He couldn't convince me in no way, shape, or form that 7 is less than 3, even if he could produce magic. Okay, so don't forget, that comment is philosophy itself. Okay, he's using reason and logic. So Imam Ghazali was a lover of reason and logic. Now, one day we'll have another episode, we'll talk about Imam Ghazali, okay, because he does something really special in his work. So I really recommend you read the work for yourself and read commentary on his work, and not just say what most people, just the rumors. Okay, so we were talking about ethics. Where do ethics come from? If there is no God, okay, Nietzsche would tell you, if you're not a theist, then who's going to say what's right and wrong? This is a very deep topic, okay? This is a very, very deep topic. Who's to say who's right and wrong? Tell me, who's to say who's right and wrong? It all becomes, listen carefully to this one. And a lot of you guys are going to hate this, okay? But it all becomes aesthetics. What does that mean? Whatever you perceive as good or handsome or pretty, you're going to consider it to be true and good. Whatever you see as evil or against your interest, you're going to view as bad. Now, this is not everybody's standard. Okay, this is not everybody's standard. But what Socrates was trying to say is, if you're going to say that things are in themselves evil, they have a germ of evil, or the good has a germ of good, to prove that logically is very difficult. It turns out that why you see a germ of good and why you see a germ of evil is really because it pleases you. You find it aesthetically pleasing. Now, this is going to be objected to, I'm sure, okay? But it's something to read and think about, because it's not that easy to absorb. But don't you find a lot of times when people say something is good or bad, it's usually because they find it aesthetically pleasing? There's no way to prove the logical germ of evil within that one thing. The only way we could prove there's a germ of evil is if God says it himself. Then it's unquestionable. Perspective is an illusion. Now, that's very interesting. Paradigms are illusionary. I would agree with you. Perspectives. I agree with that. Perspective is very, very interesting. Man, I'm getting some crazy comments here. What is a life well lived? Well, listen, that's an interesting question, guys. We're gonna have to talk about this on future podcasts because this is a touchy one. Look, I personally, if you're asking me my own personal opinion is to seek truth. Okay, if you come upon the truth, you don't care about death anymore. You don't care about nihilism anymore. It's irrelevant to you. Now, here's my question to you all. Okay, now we're shifting gears here a little bit, but it's also very, very pertinent. Is truth absolute or is truth relative? These are two very important questions. I remember, you guys were asking me to listen to some Sam Harris. So I listened to some debate between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. Now, Sam Harris was saying, look, there's an absolute truth. And Jordan Peterson was trying to say, no. There's only true enough. We can never get to absolute truth. And this was kind of frustrating Sam Harris, okay? And this is a classic argument that Socrates had with Gorgias, that Ghazali had with Avicenna, and that Leibniz had, that Descartes had with Voltaire, and so on and so on. This is a classic argument. Is there an absolute truth, or is truth relative? Let me know what you guys think. Absolute. Giovanni Pablo says absolute. Who says relative? Who says absolute? Depends if it's personal based or group based. No, I'm talking about absolute truth. There's a truth out there that whether you believe it or not exists. It exists. Believe it or not, it's still true and it's irrelevant to your opinion. Nobody has the truth. Truth is absolute. Absolute. I'm getting a lot of absolutes. So relative. Adventure 147 says it's relative. Absolute. I'm getting a lot of absolutes. 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, so that's a great argument. 2 + 2 = 4. Now, if I tell you 2 + 2 = 4, that's some people argue against that and they say it's a tautology. You haven't told me anything new. So for instance, let's say I tell you, this is my wife. I married her. When I said she's my wife, I also told you I married her, right? So why did I tell you I married her? It was useless information. It's a tautology. It's useless information. If I say, hey guys, I'm a bachelor and I'm also unmarried, you'd be like, that's totally useless information. When you told me you're a bachelor, you also told me you're unmarried. You didn't have to add that on. When I say triangle, I don't have to tell you, hey guys, this triangle has 3 points. A triangle, by its virtue of being a triangle, has 3 points. So when you say 2 + 2 = 4, you're really telling me 2 + 2, here's another way to say it, 4. So some people argue that math doesn't really give us any new information. Math is just another way of thinking about something. You gave me information, then you just interpreted it in a different way. So some people do criticize math this way. Okay? I agree with you that 2 + 2 = 4, but really some people are arguing that, hey, look, you haven't said anything that's true. You've just repeated information. Something you allege to be true. Now, anybody ever hear the argument between Harris and Peterson? Anybody ever hear that discussion? We're going to have to do a whole episode on this. We're going to have to do a whole... Guys, go to Sly and ask me to do, please, because I want this to be number 1. I want to do a full breakdown of that discussion. Okay? Sam Harris says to Jordan Peterson, how could you say that something's only true enough, only good enough to move forward? Because Peterson's view is that, look, truth is, if it's absolute, even if it's absolute, you can't get to it. You'll never know absolute truth. You'll only know something that's true enough. And then you can keep on moving forward to higher and higher truth, but you'll never get to the truth absolutely. Sam Harris is really good at making thought experiments up. Okay, he makes them up on the fly, it seems. And he says this, he says, look, he imagines a scenario where we have to count the number of hairs on Jordan Peterson's body. And he says there's either an odd number of hairs on your body or an even number of hairs on your body. This is a binary answer. It can't be both. You cannot have at the same time an odd number of hairs and have an even number of hairs on your body. And he also supposes that there's an evil tribe of some sort that will kill you if you have an even number of hairs. They only allow odd number of hairs on your body. But that's irrelevant. Let's put that to the side for now. Is it a fact that you have an even number of hairs on your body or an odd number of hairs on your body? I think Jordan Peterson would agree that there's an even or odd number of hairs. I think what he disagrees with is whether you'll ever know that. Imagine you're counting the hairs and you've counted one of the hairs twice. Isn't that a possibility? Of course it is. We could always create doubt in your assessment of any empirical truth. So for instance, let's say Sam Harris counts the hairs on your body twice, and he has them recounted by someone else, an expert counter, and then counted by a third party and a fourth party and a fifth party that's independent. Their interest is independent of the result. Jordan Peterson could always say yes, but he could always say something. He could always object. Why? He could say, look, I think that you've counted the hairs on the body, but as you were counting, maybe a hair fell off. You can't discount that possibility. So Jordan Peterson is basically saying, look, I can always poke a doubt. I can always create a doubt. You are unable to give me perfect proof. You're never able to give him perfect proof. Now, Jordan Peterson doesn't word it in this way, but I think that's what he was getting to. Okay, now Sam gives another example. Okay, and I'm going to shorten the example a little bit. He says, look, because Jordan Peterson was trying to say, look, we believe what's good for us, what we find aesthetically pleasing, what we find beautiful, what we find helps us in life. That's what we call true. What we call true is not really true in the sense of the ultimate sense, absolute sense. He says you're kidding yourself when you think that. Well, Sam Harris comes up with another thought experiment. He says, look, what if you show a man, imagine a man who sees a picture of his wife, and that picture is a picture of her cheating on him. And he believes it and he kills himself. Now that belief wasn't good for him. He didn't find it attractive. He didn't find it appealing. It wasn't the most aesthetic. And killing himself didn't make it untrue. I think Jordan Peterson would say something that's very Marcus Aurelius, that comes from the page of a Marcus Aurelius. He would say, look, cheating on you is a narrative. Maybe she had sexual intercourse with the guy, but cheating, if you dig deeper into the story, maybe it wasn't cheating. So let's imagine a scenario. Now, he doesn't give one. Peterson didn't give one, okay? But I'll give you a better one, okay? Let's give a better one. Let's say, for instance, the picture was doctored. It was Photoshopped. Maybe at least the man could say, no, that picture is Photoshopped. I don't believe it. Peterson's point would still stand true. Now, the guy who killed himself, he obviously didn't do a lot of investigation. What if the woman in question, we later find out she has a brain tumor. Okay, she has a brain tumor, and this brain tumor changed her personality. It changed her way of viewing things. It changed her thought process. And then later on, she's cured from this brain tumor, and she's once again back to normal, and she would never cheat on her husband. It's not impossible. It's maybe highly unlikely, but not impossible. What Jordan Peterson is trying to say ultimately is you do not have perfect proof. All you have is circumstantial evidence. Whenever we try to get to truth, all we find is circumstantial evidence all the time. So we can always poke a doubt in these beliefs. Now, this is very interesting because two very famous philosophers, one of them being Imam Ghazali and one of them being René Descartes, wanted to eliminate this completely. Imam Ghazali wanted to eliminate this from religion, and René Descartes wanted to eliminate this from reason. And they both come up to very, very deep and profound answers. Okay, very, very deep and profound answers that I'm probably not going to have time to get into today because we are 1 hour in. Okay, so guys, go to Slido, and if you guys want to keep this direction going, make this question number one. Okay, and we'll keep going on this one question. But René Descartes and Imam Ghazali do something really, really excellent. Okay, now I don't want to leave the Greeks out of this. The Greeks were phenomenal thinkers, but the Greeks had a whole other tangent they went down. Okay, and we'll talk about those books. We'll talk about the Phaedo. We'll talk about the Parmenides. We'll talk about the classic writings that try to tackle this subject. What is true? And it's perfect proof. Nobody can poke the slightest doubt in it. And I think there are answers to this, but guys like Jordan Peterson and the sophists were not easy to satisfy. There is an absolute truth. Plato's world of the forms. Well, you know what? If you read the Parmenides, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. If you read the Parmenides, Socrates is taking the position of the forms. So those of you who don't know what the forms are the absolute truths that exist in some abstract world. They're not subject to the empirical flaws, the flaws of this world. When you look at the world here, whenever you try to study the physical world, it always slips out of our grasp. Now, Parmenides gives Socrates a beating. Guys, there's 40 books. Plato wrote 40 books, and Socrates is he's the main character of almost all the books. And he doesn't take any beating in any of the books, except in the Parmenides. In the Parmenides, he takes a shellacking, okay? And the forms take a shellacking. Now, I'm not telling you that, I don't want to tell you that the forms are a done deal, but it proves to be absurd, okay? The forms are not necessarily true in themselves, and a lot of philosophers today don't believe in the forms, okay? Now, that's a deep topic. We'll have to talk about it another day. But Parmenides' theory of the one also takes a bit of a beating later on in the text. Okay, so they don't necessarily get into... the Greeks never reach a full conclusion. Socrates in the Phaedo says, which is very interesting because he gets to a similar answer to Imam Ghazali. Very interesting. Okay, Socrates says, look, when I die, I'm finally going to wake up to the truth. This body keeps holding me back. Every time I come close to the truth, this body holds me back. When I die, finally, I'm going to get wisdom. I'm going to get to know the absolute truth, the one we're talking about. Now, what do they mean when they say that the truth always eludes them? I'm going to wrap up with this, guys, okay? So, the Arabs burnt Aristotle's work. That's not true. That's not true, okay? It was actually, I don't want to get into that because I don't want to start a war here, but that's not true. The Arabs preserved philosophy, okay, and actually corrected philosophy as well. They made a lot of improvements on philosophy. What were we talking about? Okay, so look, picture, there's a lot of classic paradoxes in philosophy, okay? Here's one of my favorite. I think you guys are going to... yes, Ibn Rushd did translate and commented on Aristotle. Absolutely. And the Christians learned a lot about philosophy through Ibn Rushd. They called him the commentator. That was how they referred to him, as the commentator. Because he explained the thoughts and he's known also as the corrector of Aristotle. Okay, he was a phenomenal thinker, Averroes. Okay, so picture a coast on a beach. Picture a coast. And we want to measure the coastline. And now you see the coastline is very jagged. Has a lot of jagged lines. And I'm going to give you a 1 meter. I'm going to give you a meter, a stick, okay, 100 centimeter stick. And I'm going to ask you, look, measure this coast. And you're going to take that stick and you're going to measure it. And you're going to count how many meters. And then you're going to convert those meters into miles. Okay, now I gave you a distance from A to B. And you measured the coast. And you measured that it was 10 miles long. Okay, I'm holding the mic here, guys, so that's why I was flashing 5, but I meant 10. Okay, because I got to hold this mic. So the coast is 10 miles long. Then I give you a smaller measuring stick. Okay, I give you a meter, a half a meter stick. I give you a half a meter. So instead of giving you a 100 centimeter stick, I'm giving you a 50 centimeter stick. And now you're laying this centimeter stick over and over on the coast. And because the stick is smaller, it's fitting into the crooks and the crannies a little bit more. So that at the end of your measurement, you have 12 miles long. The coast now is 12 miles long. Why is it 2 miles longer? You were able to get into the crooks. You got a more accurate measurement. Now imagine I give you a wheel. You know those wheels that turn, and every time they do one revolution, they counted 1 meter. Now that wheel gets into the crooks and crannies a lot more. Why? Because the surface area of the wheel is very small. And now you end up measuring the coast again, and this time it's 15 miles long. Why? Because you got into the crooks and crannies even deeper. So we went from 10 miles long to 14 miles long to 15 miles long. And the more sharp and the more accurate the measuring device, the longer and longer the shore keeps getting. So we can no longer objectively measure the shore. Why? Because the more and the instrument can be infinitely accurate. It can keep getting more and more accurate till it's measuring the atoms. And even when you measure the atoms, you can keep going to the elementary particles. And when you go to the elementary particles, we eventually lose where matter is completely. So the coast, in one way, is 10 miles long, 14 miles long, 15 miles long, infinite amount of miles long. We're always losing an absolute measure, an objective 100% measure. And this happens with weight, because weight fluctuates. Okay, this happens with time. This happens with everything we try to measure and control objectively. It seems that we know only objectivity theoretically. But when we go to apply it in the world, there's always a realm of subjectivity. There's always a a base for doubt. Now, I'm going to end this with this, okay? This last few comments here, because we're over time. There are 3 ways to know something, okay? 3 ways. 1 is empirically, through the senses. 2 is logically, okay? The second way. So the first way is empirically. The second way is logically, through the mind, deduction. And the third way is intuitively, okay? We got to talk about this, a whole episode on just epistemology, how we know things, okay? So it seems whenever we try to apply our logic to the world, it escapes us slightly. The world is always creating some kind of paradox. And luckily, a lot of philosophers eventually fall back, or a lot of religious thinkers actually, Sufis, the mystics. Okay, I don't like to use the term Sufi because today Sufism is such a wild and diverse idea. But the early mystics, especially the Muslim mystics, they revert back to intuition, or Descartes' cogito, or Socrates is death will bring us absolute truth. And again, I know this sounds like crazy claims, but wait till we get to their epistemology. How did they get to this claim? You know, don't forget, these were all professional thinkers. This is the culmination of decades and decades of philosophy. And the parallels are interesting between the Greeks and the Arabs and the Renaissance philosophers. The parallels are really interesting. And luckily for me, I've studied all 3 groups. Especially now I'm studying the Arabs a lot more. And it's really interesting, the dynamic between all 3. You are describing an impossible task. Mustafa, don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. There is one thing that everybody agrees on, okay? And we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Even the most hardcore atheists, there's something, the atheists, the theists, the rationalist, the empiricist, the radical skeptic, all of us, we at least agree on one thing, and we got to start from there. That is the nucleus. We got to start from there. Have you heard of Hamza Tsortis? Yes, actually, I've corresponded with him a little bit, and I have his book. He sent me his book as a gift. Very nice guy, very interesting guy, very intelligent human being, super intelligent guy. Black belt in philosophy. Well, I'm not sure who you're referring to, but if you're referring to me, thank you. I appreciate that. Coast measurements, very good example. I will reuse it. Thanks. Please do. It's an interesting. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot more paradoxes. There are a lot more. The Tao Te Ching. Listen, the Tao Te Ching I'm not as familiar with. Okay, I've picked up a book here and there on the Tao Te Ching. I know Lao Tzu is a famous thinker. I'm not that familiar with it. So if you guys have any references or sources, good sources, send them my way. I'd love to review. You are very wrong. Distance from A to B is the same. No, it's not, my friend. Anax, please do demonstrate it. Okay. Please do demonstrate. We can only really do that in the abstract sense on the board. But when you go measure it in real life, the more accurate the instrument, the longer the measurement. Okay. There's actually a really nice documentary called, look it up. Okay. It's called How to Measure a Piece of String. And they go into this problem. How long is a foot? Do you guys know the history of how long a foot is? We don't know exactly how long a foot is. We don't know. The measurements that they used in the past was an Egyptian prince or king or whatnot. They used like his forearm of some sort. But that stick that they use over time, it shrunk and it expands with the humidity and the temperature, etc. There are literally places in the world right now where they keep, they try to keep, I think it's a steel alloy or whatever it is, material that doesn't shrink or expand too much. And they keep it at the right temperature. They keep the temperature controlled so that it doesn't shrink or expand too much. So they can always have a frame of reference for what a foot is. Don't forget, your measuring tape, it does shrink and expand. Like your ruler that you have since you're a kid is slightly off. It's slightly off. And when they made it, was slightly off. And since you've been using it all these years, that it's expanded. We're talking about a very small amount, but it's still an amount. We don't know exactly over the thousands of years what we agreed to what a foot was. If it's half an inch longer or shorter, or even a millimeter longer or shorter, we're not sure. Thoughts on objectivism. Listen, objectivism, there's a lot, philosophy is endless. Thought is endless. I haven't gotten to objectivism yet. I'm planning on it, definitely. I've heard of the objectivism, but I haven't myself personally read the Ayn Rand texts yet. Heard of shamanism? No, I have not heard of shamanism. Please do enlighten me. Do you know Machiavelli? Yes, I have been familiarized. I've come across him in my textbooks. Machiavelli, he's one of the most famous and influential human beings. And yes, I have heard of him, no doubt. I know that the Greeks' foot was a fraction of a stadium, which was the measurement of a Greek stadium. Yeah, but how do we keep that standard over time, over years, right? What's your take on psychedelics for exploring consciousness and spirituality? Well, here's my opinion. Psychedelics have a very, very negative effect on the body. You do not need psychedelics. You can have the benefits of dropping. From what I understand, again, guys, I'm not an expert on this, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a heads up. From what I understand, okay, look, there is an experience that's talked about where if you drop the ego or you lose the ego, the Sufis will tell you this, okay? Imam Ghazali will tell you this. Descartes was trying to tell you, look, Socrates was trying to tell you, look, I'll have to die physically for me to get to know the truth. The mystics say, no, look, you can die in this life. Okay, now for those of you who know the Islamic religion, there's a famous hadith, die before you die, okay? The ego has to die. All your paradigms have to die. All your presuppositions have to die. Imam Ghazali eventually reasons to, look, I have to suspend my empirical beliefs. I have to suspend my deduction, my logic. I have to suspend it all. I have to let it all die. I have to let the self die. And then intuition will take over. Now, this is a very, very, very profound subject. Now, people who take LSD, they'll tell you crazy. They'll write down poetry when they're high, and they'll write stuff that's very, like, mystic-like. Okay, very mystic-like. Why? Some people theorize is because they've gotten to that place where they've dropped the ego. They've dropped their paradigms, etc. Now, in my opinion, you don't need this. You don't need to get hooked, addicted, rot your brain, etc. You don't want to take the risk with your health. Okay, so there's no need for that. There's no need. All you need is exploration, self-knowledge, thinking, rationalizing, and you will get there. Now, reason, the big critique of reason. Okay, somebody mentioned Ibn Taymiyyah. He gives the best critique of reason. He says, look, if reason is so good, and we agree that reason is good, everybody agrees reason is good. Okay, only the radical skeptics, only the sophists will say reason doesn't exist. But to say that reason doesn't exist, you have to give us a rational argument. Once you're giving us a rational argument for why reason is relative, you are admitting that reason is true because you're reasoning that reason is false. So it's self-defeating. Okay, might not be able to wrap your mind around it the first few times you hear it, but believe me, this is true. You cannot argue logically against logic. You're proving logic. You're taking the position of logic to defeat logic, which is nonsensical. You've in fact admitted to logic by doing that. Okay, so we agree that logic is true, but Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, look, Plato and Aristotle didn't agree, and supposedly they were the best at logic. Ibn Ghazali and Avicenna didn't agree, and supposedly they were the best at logic. Descartes and Voltaire didn't agree, and supposedly they were the best at logic. They don't agree. Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, today's most popular intellectuals online. Okay, I know you might refer to even higher intellectual. I no doubt that they are, but let's just take the most popular guys for today. They don't agree. They tried to do a 2-hour episode on what is the truth. They couldn't agree. Now, why can't we agree? Here's what, and it's a very humble position, and I have to say, your reason will take you so far, but then eventually you have to abandon reason. Reason tells us, look, we are not worthy of using this power tool. Reason is a sacred thing. Reason is, by definition, true and correct. However, it's so beyond us to actually reason because of your prejudice, because of your ego, because of your appeal for aesthetics. You will not be able to get to the truth. You're the problem, not logic. Logic is perfect. You're the problem. Okay, your weaknesses, your inabilities, your assumptions, your presuppositions, all these things are why you can't use logic. Is anybody out there free of error? Is anybody out there the perfect logician? We'd have to say no. Why? Because they're all human. Humans make errors. Have you ever done a math problem and made an error? Of course you have. It's nonsensical to ask for proof or logic. Well, it depends what you mean by that, Philosopher King. Okay, but I think at the end, we go from empiricism to logic, and then we graduate from logic to intuition. And intuition is the most logical. Intuition is the most logical answer in the end, in my opinion. And I think most people have to agree to at least one intuitive thought we have, at least one. But we'll have to save that for another episode, guys. We're going to talk about intuition, how we know it. This is a very deep topic. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. For those of you, we're 280 on this one. Wow. I can't believe you guys stuck around this long. Congratulations. You have an IQ of over 100, no doubt. Easily over 100. If you're listening to this, man, you have an IQ of easily over 100. The average IQ in Canada is 99. And the average IQ in America, from what I remember, is 98. So you guys, I would say, if you're listening to this and you're understanding this, you're easily above that. Okay, so congratulations. Over 9,000. Rafiq, you are the man. If you are over 9,000, dude, write a book. Please do write a book. Now, go to Slido, guys. Slido, our Slido event number for this channel is 5419. Upvote. If you guys want to talk about logic, reason, intuition, epistemology, let me know. It gets deeper. We couldn't even scratch the surface today. We talked about Plato, Ghazali, Descartes. We haven't even scratched the surface. We'd have to do a whole episode on just this. Empiricism, logic, and intuition. For those of you who are interested, check out Plato's Phaedo, the book of Phaedo. Check out Imam Ghazali's Deliverance from Error or The Confessions, a great place to start. Or check out René Descartes' The Meditations, another great book. And I think you guys will enjoy them. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you all in